Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem, your literary ambassador, and I'm here at Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. And today I have four Christian fiction authors that I have on a panel. And today's discussion is what is Christian fiction? And Pat Simmons, can you go first?
Absolutely. I am Pat Simmons from St. Louis, and I have been writing for about 11 years now, I guess. And for me, Christian fiction is about making a change in the reader's life, whether that is redemption from a problem or salvation, or how to pray more or to learn the scriptures. So for me, Christian fiction is about making a change in my reader's life. My tagline is always Christian romance novels, keep it clean. So when I write about romance, I keep it clean.
Thank you. Thank you. Vanessa Miller Pierce.
Yes. For me, Christian fiction is about showing Jesus Christ within your novels. I want to show real people, real problems, real issues, but then I show how God is able to come in the midst of all of the struggles that we go through and see the characters through. So that is what is important to me in Christian fiction, that we show how God is able to lead and guide our characters through the situations in life.
All right, and then we have Rhonda McKnight.
Okay, I'm Rhonda McKnight. I've been published since 2009. These ladies blazed the trail for me, and I love them all very much. I remember meeting Vanessa Davis Griggs and Vanessa Miller way back at the beginning of my journey in 2003, and I just want to publicly acknowledge how much y'all inspired me. Okay, so my idea of Christian fiction is I think that Christian fiction are stories that the books that I write, I desire to entertain the Christian reader, okay? I think that Christians, women in particular, those are the largest segment of the readers who read my books, and I think most of our books, need to be able to find a book that takes them to a safe place, where they're not dealing with fornication and people that are drinking and people that are doing all manner of things. Even though we have a lot of those activities happening in our books, they are not highlighted in our books to glorify sin. There are consequences to sin, and I think that all of our books share that. I know mine certainly do. So I like for readers to be able to escape in a story. I love the idea that readers take away a message from my story. Whatever it is that God desires that they take away from the story is the message I believe that they'll get. And most of my characters are on some type of faith journey. Something has happened in their lives that has, well, when I say faith journey, I mean faith, a crisis of their faith. And so I just like to put ordinary people in really bad situations and demonstrate how they can find their way out through Christ, through prayer. And so that's just kind of it, that's my take on it all.
Thank you. And Vanessa Davis Griggs.
Well, my name is Vanessa Davis Griggs, and for me, I often tell people that when you talk about Christian, I would say that you can't even spell Christian without Christ. So I'm always looking at the fact that I'm not necessarily, for me, people say write what you know, but because I happen to know Jesus Christ, and I know what it is to go through things, I know what it is to not always have things to work right for you, but the thing that we have that most people sometimes who may not know Christ don't have is that we do have Christ, and that we can go through whatever it is that we're going through. I tell people that there are people who have already received Christ, but then we need to encourage them. So my books are really written to make sure that I am encouraging people as far as, I know it may be hard sometimes, but hold on, I know you may be dealing with things, but hold on, and just to let them know that we have the peace that surpasses all understanding. So for me, that's what, as far as my writing and what I want to do, I want to keep it real as far as what's going on in the world. But then I tell people, even though people say that you look at as far as Jesus, but I say my mother sometimes is a lot harder even on things that you write. So I want my mother to be able to read it and make sure that she's also comfortable reading whatever I write.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next question. Whoever wanted to take this question. Why is there not enough exposure for Christian fiction authors?
My 2 cents is I think there is a stereotype that we don't keep it real, like Vanessa Miller Pierce was saying that, you know, people don't think Christians go through. We do go through, but our solution to every problem should always be Jesus. Should always be Jesus. And I don't think people want to hear about Jesus when they're going through. And so they may not pick up one of our books because they think, you know, we're going to judge them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe, Rhonda, I see you, so maybe you can, you know, piggyback onto that.
Well, I think that from a exposure standpoint, I think it's hard for any author to get exposure for their book. I mean, the marketing channels that we have now for most authors are no longer necessarily bookstores, and people are not receiving or opening e-blasts that they get by mail the way that they used to 15 years ago. Largely it's social media, and we know that even with social media there are algorithms and all these things, different things that change that limit your ability to reach your market without spending a lot of money. Okay, and so while we all, I believe everyone I know sets a budget and has a budget for how they want to market their books, it's a limited budget. It's not an endless budget. It's not a Terry McMillan budget. It's not, you know, a Walter Mosley budget. And so, in my opinion, I think that our readers do a great job of sharing our books with their friends and talking about them and writing reviews for me. I know that a lot of people complain about not getting reviews. But when I look at Christian fiction authors, we are heavily reviewed compared to our peers because our readers love us and they take the time to write a review, whereas, you know, some of these other readers, they can't buy a review, you know, but we really do get the reviews, I think, a lot more than other people. So I think that our readers are doing their part, but I just think that for me, it's the lack of exposure at this point is just that there has just been a shift in how books are marketed, and we are perhaps trying to catch up with that. A lot of the authors in the genre at this current time are a little, I don't want to use the word older, but that's the word. Like, we don't have a lot of upcoming folks in their 20s writing Christian fiction that I'm aware of. Those are the people that know how to use this technology. We probably need to take a class from some of them. So I think that there are just limitations that affect every genre. I don't think it's a Christian fiction exposure problem. That's just my opinion. I just think it's technology.
Right. Well, I also, though, experienced something, though, with a couple of my publishers. When I was with a couple of Christian publishers, I felt like, and we talked about it, they did not necessarily know how to market me as an African-American Christian fiction author. So sometimes that becomes a problem. And so we have to, just as you're talking about the social media, Rhonda, we have to also find ways where we can market our work, even in the bookstores, so that our readers can find us. So it's a problem, and we just have to solve this problem.
And I would just like to say that one of the things I think that kind of hurt a little within our industry is when we lost Black expression.
Yes,
absolutely.
Because at that point, we at least had ways that people would know about your book, because they would get those mailings and mail out, and then we were picked for featured and for alternate, and it was all of that that helped. And unless you can let people know about your book, you're not going to get the support that you need. And that's been the challenge, is making sure of that. And of course, the publishers, to me, are going through some changes, because they were trying to decide, do we want to go totally with ebooks? Do we want to still do print? And they kind of pulled back, but a lot had to do in 2008, we had that crash, and you had a lot of people where they may have wanted to buy books, but they were like, do I eat or do I read a book? And so they decided they wanted to eat. And that kind of a little bit when you're looking at the support that we could have gotten.
Okay.
Queenie, can I just, I guess, I
Yes.
kicked off the conversation with a different angle. And so I'm listening to my fellow authors talk about more the marketing strategy, where I was talking about more of the readers. But, you know, listening to them, I just signed on with a traditional secular publisher who knows I'm a Christian author, who wants to market me as an inspirational author versus a Christian author. And I really had to go with God on this. And I had to accept that, Lord, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than me not using Christian romance because that's what I write. But as I did the rewrites, and she was taking out some of my sermons, things of that nature, and I was being prayerful, Lord, help me, even if I limit my writing to one scripture, let that one scripture that I use be so powerful that it draws people in. And so this is my first time, because I've been with some publishing houses with Rhonda and Vanessa Miller Pierce that, you know, were Christian. I didn't have to worry about the tone of my book. So now I'm with a secular publisher, still trying to get out the message, where my editor is a Jewish woman trying to understand who Jesus is. And so this is a new experience for me, because I'm not able to put in at least 2 sermons, and my people aren't able to get baptized in Jesus' name. But in the book and the rewrite, she's allowed me to keep the church sermons in. She's allowed me to sprinkle with scriptures. So with my new situation with marketing, I've explained to her, I can't guarantee that my Christian readers are going to come over. So I'm putting the ball in her court. I'm like, okay, you got to bring it. You said you want to bring African-American readers over, then it's in your court. You bring it. And once they read my book, it's inspirational, but not as much as I wanted. So it's going to be interesting for me to see the marketing strategy that they're putting out behind this Christian romance author turned inspirational romance. So, you know, time will tell how the trade-off is going to be.
Okay. Now, excuse me. I've seen a book that was under a genre called urban Christian fiction. Can someone explain what that is?
I think the 3 of us used to be with urban Christian fiction. Myself, Pat Simmons, and Rhonda McKnight. That was, and Joylyn Ross was the editor of that division. It was just a publishing company that he had several different divisions, and urban Christian fiction was one of them.
No, like when I have went in a store, like a bookstore.
Oh, okay.
And that was going to be my next question about this bookstore. When I went in, it had urban Christian fiction section. And I was like,
it's just geared toward the Black reader. That's
okay,
what they do. It's geared toward the Black reader.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the white readers don't think it's for them when they put us in that box.
Okay, next question. What is your purpose in writing Christian fiction? And each one of y'all can take a chance, can answer that one. Rhonda?
Say that again.
What is your purpose in writing Christian fiction?
Okay, purpose. Okay.
Okay, so my purpose is I started writing, like from the time I was a little child. And so when I grew as a woman and grew spiritually, I wanted to write stories that looked like people like me. I'm a Christian, I love the Lord. I try very hard to live my life the way that I know Christ desires I live my life. I believe every word in the Bible, every single one. And so I wanted to write stories about people like me, people who weren't necessarily perfect, but people who truly did endeavor every day to wake up and live their life for Christ. So my purpose was to write stories about people who were like me, people who had faith challenges, people who had, perhaps, not that I have had all the issues that my characters have had in my books, but, problems with marriages, problems with relationships with families, challenges on the job. But at the end of the day, or at some point during the day, they sought the Lord on how they were supposed to resolve their issues. So, I mean, I just felt like I had a gift to write. I felt like it was something that God gave me, which means if God gives you a gift, you use the gift, you don't bury the gift. So my purpose in writing really was just to fulfill, to utilize the gift that God gave me. I don't have like a big mission statement for my writing. God gave me a gift. I asked him what my purpose was. He said, I gave you a gift to write. I started writing. What came out of me was what he put in me. And so that's pretty it for me. It's pretty simple.
All right.
As for me, my one word that I would say would be to encourage. So that's one of my purposes. The other thing, though, that I noticed was there were certain books that when they talked about preachers, it was always like you couldn't find any preachers or pastors sometimes that looked like they really had a heart for God and were on the up and up. And I wanted people to see that there are pastors out there who really do care. They really are, straight. And also my other thing was you would sometimes see Black men and they didn't act like we had any good Black men, like they weren't family people or they weren't always good husbands or good fathers. And so for me, I wanted people to see that we do have good Black men. We have men that have been married and they do the right thing and they stay with their wives and they take care of their children, and not everybody's in jail or doing drugs or just the way people sometimes want society to see. And I told one time, there was a young man and he told me how much he loved my books. And I told people that even if you said that this was not real, if you said this is not realistic, that at least it gives people an idea of what to strive for. You can say that maybe I didn't see this when I was growing up. Maybe I don't know anybody like that, but you can read some of my characters and you can say, this is something that I can see can be done. So let me at least strive for. But my one word is to encourage you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vanessa Miller Pierce.
Well, I'll tell you, my name means butterfly. And I didn't realize what God had called me to do when I was younger. I knew I was going to be a writer, but I didn't realize it was a calling from God until I gave my life to God. And then when I discovered what my name meant, then I understood why I write the way I do. And so what happens to a butterfly before? It is a caterpillar. And then a caterpillar goes into a cocoon state, and then it becomes a butterfly. And so I write about those caterpillars in life, that thing that when you see it, you want to step on it and it's hideous to you. But I like to then take that character and put it in the cocoon. And the cocoon state is when they get a hold of God's message for their life. And then they begin to realize that God does love them. And they realize that, wait a minute, if God loves me, then maybe life can be different. And so then that's when you begin to see that butterfly emerge. And so that, I believe, that is my whole mission in life, is to help people go from that caterpillar state to that butterfly. And so that's why I write the way I write. Like Vanessa Griggs says, she likes to write about the good people. Well, when you first meet my characters, they're not so good. And that's men and women. And it is a purpose to that because, as I say, I write about the caterpillar turning into a butterfly with the help of Jesus.
Okay. And Miss Pat?
Okay, sorry about that. My audio is down, so I'm trying to get it back. So let's see.
We can hear you.
Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm. I can.
Okay. My purpose is to keep people keep people from falling. My golden text, Jude 24. And some people that are Christians need the encouragement. And I want to provide what would Jesus do in this situation. If you get fired on your job, what is a Christian going to do? Come back with a gun and say, you know what, this is from me? Or are you going to say, God, you knew this was going to happen when I woke up today. God, what is your purpose in this? God, how should I act? So basically, I am giving my readers a what would Jesus do option. And I always tell people that Christians can walk righteously. But do you want to be kept? There's Christians that want to be Christian on Sunday, but they don't want to be kept on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And, oh, you know what? Thursday and Friday, I'll be a Christian again. So my whole purpose is to show readers how, or to encourage them, be a Christian at all times, regardless of what situation you're in. That's my purpose. Now, whether I succeed all the time, you know, it's up to the reader, but that's my purpose.
Okay. When did you realize you had the gift of painting pictures through words?
For me, this is Vanessa. For me, it was when I was a child. I believe I knew I was going to be a writer when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and the reason is because my father sat me on a porch, and he told me a story about something that was hideous in the story. The whole story through, though, I thought it was beautiful. The way he described this thing, I was thinking it's so beautiful. At the end of the story, I discovered he was talking about a rat. And at that moment, I said, I want to do that, even before I knew what I was called to do. So I believe God was always showing me what I would be doing. And it started right there on that porch when my father told me that story about a hideous rat, but he made it seem so beautiful.
And for me, when I was a young person in middle school and back to elementary school, I used to write plays. And so I've always been a person who was visual. And for me, when I'm writing my stories, what I want you to do is I see a movie playing in my head and I see exactly what's going on. And the challenge is to be able to take words and the power of words and to be able to allow you to see what I see, that you now become the director and you're making that movie in your head. So it's using words and say, how do I make my words where you can see that picture? How do I make you taste it? How do I make you smell it? How do I make you just feel like, oh, it is so real? Because words have power.
Amen. Miss Rhonda?
Okay. The question was, when did I know? What's the question?
When did you realize you had the gift of painting pictures through words?
I don't know. Have I realized that yet? I've been writing since I was a kid. I don't know that I would have ever thought that I paint pictures with words. I guess I do. But I became serious about being published as a writer in 2000, and I think it was 2003. I mean, I had many stops along the way. Like I remember in 1995, shortly after I got married, I read a book, and it was a book by Terry McMillan. I told my husband, I said, I could do this. I just need a computer, you know, and all this. So but then I would have things that would kind of stop me because I never knew what I was supposed to write. I was reading a lot of secular fiction, enjoying it, but feeling like I got to be able to write a book my pastor can read. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, that was very, very important to me. I had to be able to write a book that I could be proud that anybody in my life could pick up. And I remember one of my favorite authors talked about how she wrote romance and how she kept her romance books in a Ziploc bag in the that she stored them so that when her children were adults, she would be able to hand her books to her children, they would be able to read them. And I thought, I never wanted to do that. Like, if my kid, when my first book came out, my son was 16 years old. He picked it up and read it in a day. And that's what I wanted. I did not want, oh, this content is this or that. And that's fine for anybody that wants to write whatever they want to write. But for me, I needed to be proud of what I put in the universe. And so I think I've gotten off the question, but the bottom line was, I think I began to want to be published and probably in 2003, finished my first book in 2007, sold it that year, it came out in 2009. Whether or not I'm painting pictures, I'll let the readers decide that. Poor Pat.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm pulling into my garage, so maybe you'll be able to hear me. And the Lord just blessed me with a new car, so I'm still trying to figure out how to use this. So apologize about that. The very first Christian novel I read was by this author named Aisha Ford, and she had scriptures in it, and I felt, finally, this is for me. And I wanted to be able to do the same thing when I write. I want to be able to lead my readers to scriptures. That's what I wanted. And the Lord just blessed. I mean, honestly, just piggybacking on Rhonda, I don't know when it happened, but God writes the stories. He's the one who writes the stories. And I'm in awe when I write a scene. I'm like, wow, it's powerful. So he just lets me fill in the blanks. But I just have to give credit to God, because I'm a storyteller verbally, but when it goes on paper, I mean, I try to use the romance formula as best as I can, but I just have to get credit. I'm not this great, masterful artist that can piece together words. That's just not me. God helps me to write the story.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. What comes first for you, the storyline or the characters?
Okay, I'll answer. This is Rhonda. The characters always come first for me. I meet the character in my mind, like literally I'm at the counter peeling potatoes, and some person starts talking in my ear and telling me about this problem she has, and it's serious. And so I always meet my characters in the middle of a dialogue about their problem, literally drops in my head, and I know that I've got my next story, because this woman is telling me it's time to write about me.
And as for me, I'm like what Rhonda was saying. My characters actually start talking, and sometimes when they're talking, they're telling you various situations that they're going through. And just like right now, I kept hearing, I may even just hear a sentence. I remember when I was writing a book called Promises Beyond Jordan, I heard, have you ever loved someone that you never had? And when I heard that sentence, I was like, wow, that's pretty good. My thought was, well, I probably should write it down. But you know how sometimes we say, well, I probably will remember that. And then I heard, no, get up and write that down now. I got up to just write down that one sentence, and I decided I'll just type it on my computer. So I started typing, and before I knew it, I had typed 4 pages. And when I read what had been written, then my thought was, okay, there's something going on here. So for me, I will see my characters. And a lot of times with us as authors, we'll have our characters that may marinate in us. I mean, they're like in there, we hear them, we see what's going on with them, and they'll get like really, really deep. And then at that point, it's like you must write. I have to write this. And you have to be true to your characters. I cannot just make my characters do whatever it is I want, because sometimes I'll say, okay, this character is supposed to die. And then next thing you know, they start getting better and they're getting well. And I remember one time I said, okay, I have no idea what's going on with this, so I'm just going to go with it. So that's one of the things I do is I will hear my characters, and then everything else will be built around that.
Okay. Vanessa Miller Pierce?
Well, for me, I normally am working on the story, and then I begin to build the characters. Once I know, I won't know the entire story until I have my characters, but the storyline will come to me first. And then I'll say, oh, really? And then this character, that character kind of comes in the story. And so that's just the way it's always been with me. I get at least a glimpse of the storyline first, and then I begin to build the characters. And you guys, I'm sipping on hot tea because this cold has got me. So I keep muting it, so pardon me.
Okay. And Miss Pat?
I think she's still muted.
You muted. Miss?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. For me, I would say the message or the storyline. And I'm thinking of a book that I wrote, Every Woman Needs a Praying Man.
Mm-hmm.
The message was for the story was, you know, everyone wants a man with money and looks and possessions, but my particular character needed a man that could pray her through a situation. And so that's just one example of the books I write. What's the message? And then I have to build the characters. Or for books that are sequels where the characters are already established, I have to know what's your purpose, what's your message. So, you know, basically, I have the story. I'm with Vanessa on this. I have the story, or basically a blurb of the story, and I have to build from, you know, whatever God gives me, and to make sure I include all those focal points in the story, which may involve me adding more characters to the story to tell the story.
Okay. How do you manage your time between writing and other responsibilities? Vanessa?
I want to know that one myself.
Yeah, I'm struggling to do that now. I'm trying. Like right now, I was supposed to have already started a book, and I still have not started it, but I'm hoping that I will get that started pretty soon. But we've had some other things going on. And so when life happens, you know, and so you get a little behind, but one thing I do is I try to come to my office every day. And so I try to sit down at my desk, and once I've got the book started, nothing is going to stop me from getting that book done. Mm-hmm. So it's the getting it started. When I finish something and now I'm in the middle of other things, I have to make myself start that next book. And so that's where I'm at right now.
And you know, there are times when I think all of us have probably gone through different times where you could say, oh, but I had the time to write and I really could do what I needed to do. And like you said, life kind of happens. And when it comes in, what you do is, because most of us have it in our DNA to write, it's like, I cannot not write. So, and I always tell people, writing is not always even sitting at the computer and writing. Sometimes it's when you're watching what other people are doing, or when you're just waiting on that fully formate or to formulate the way it should. And at that point, you can say, now I can write. So writing is not always just sitting there and putting it on the computer, but it's also making sure that you have that story. So when you're really getting into it and going, you can keep going. For me, it's just a matter of you say, what is important? And when you decide, I have to write this, you want to make time for whatever it is that you believe is important, you're going to make that time, even if it means I got to stay up a little later, or if I have a job, when I get through my job, I'll come in and I'll write at least a page or two. So it's about just really saying, for me, something I believe I'm supposed to do, I'm going to make the time at some point to make sure I get it done.
Okay, Miss Pat.
Oh, I was trying to wait for Rhonda's response so I can figure out how these ladies do it. I'm with Vanessa Griggs, or yes, it's Griggs, on this because I write when I'm not writing. And what I mean by that, I write when I'm driving. I write when I'm sewing. I'm constantly writing, and I'm keeping my characters active so that when I do sit down to write, I already know what to write. I'm just as busy as everybody else. I have projects, I have church, I have a daughter who's out of town, and when she calls, I have to talk to her. I have a son who lives in town, and when he calls, it's probably a crisis. I need to talk to him. And then I just so happen to have a husband that I need to, to watch a couple of movies throughout the week with. And so, I admire anyone that has it in check, has it balanced. I'm with Vanessa Miller Pierce that once I start on the story, it's easier, but I just don't have a concrete answer. I'm still learning. I'm going to see what Rhonda says and see what I can pick up on.
You can't pick up on anything from me, Pat. You're one of the most disciplined writers that I know, which is the reason you have so many. How many books do you have, Pat Simmons?
I actually had to count my titles because I'm doing a game book for an event that I'm doing next month, and I actually have 36 titles. Can you believe that?
Vanessa,
wow, this is wonderful. Yes.
But the books are probably about maybe 33 books because some are short stories, but yeah.
Well, novellas, which are not quite short stories. I mean, they're just shorter novels.
Yeah, I have. Oh, Rhonda, don't ask me. I don't know. I know
it's way over 30. Vanessa Miller, how many do you have?
I don't know.
It's a lot.
I'm in the 40s right now, but I don't know the exact number, and I mean to count them, but I keep forgetting. So I'm gonna have to go and actually count each one because I've got so many different series. So then that, like the series that I have right now, it's a 6-book series, and so one is a 9-book series. On and on, 3 books. So they add up.
Okay. So I don't have anything to add to the conversation that these women. I have 13 books. I do. Well, my 13th and my 14th. My 13th novel or story fiction book, because I have a prayer journal, will come out at some point this month. It was supposed to be out this coming Tuesday. That's not happening because it turned from a novella into a novel. I'm not a particularly disciplined writer. I write when I feel like writing. I think I have to agree with Pat that sometimes it becomes like the character's like, it's time to tell my story, so this book is getting out. I think in some respects, I let my readers guide that. They kind of push, like, when are we going to get another book? And so then I feel like, oh, I need to write another book. Like, I actually have people that want a book from me. They love Christian fiction, but it's like time for a Rhonda McKnight book because we all have our different flavors. Correct. And we all add something to this genre in terms of what people are seeking. You know what I'm saying? So when it's time for me to write a book, I just feel like I write a book, like, and some of that is the Holy Spirit pressing, like, okay, it's time for this story, okay? And so I do that, but I write very fast when I decide it's time to write. But one of the things I do, like when I decide it's time to write a book, I give myself a deadline. I give myself a daily word count. I'm an extremely competitive person, so I always reach that. And then I try to exceed it so that I can be proud of myself with these numbers that are adding up on this little calendar I track with. So I just kind of use my personality to help me write a book out. You know, I push myself. I'm a person that pushes myself no matter what I'm doing. And so when I make up my mind it's time to write a book, I want to meet that deadline. And so, but a lot of times it's just, I think that God just says it's time, Rhonda, it's time to write a book. And so he will use the readers, he will use my author friends who encourage me. And then I'll just say, okay, it's time to be obedient and sit down and write a book. That's just kind of how it happens for me.
Queenie, before you ask the next question, I think it's real important, and Rhonda tapped on this, is that if our stories are not ready, they are not released. And that's really important to convey to our readers. Okay, my story was supposed to come out August 1st. Well, if it's not ready, it's not coming out. And we really hope that readers appreciate that we may take that extra couple of weeks or even an extra month or 2 months to polish our work so that it will be reader ready.
And if I could piggyback on even that, what Pat said, and I think Pat and I have talked about this once when we shared a hotel room, is sometimes I feel like what God wants me to tackle, I'm not even ready for. Like I have grown as a woman and as a Christian. And through my experiences now, I'm able to share X, Y, and Z. So when we talk about it not being ready, because I don't wake up every day ready to write every story that I have in the back of my mind, I'm not ready to tell because I have not even had that life experience that would make this, that would add value to the story, the kind of value to the story that God desires that it have for the reader. So sometimes, even though this is my story, none of my stories, I mean, maybe one, like way back in the beginning, had some elements of my own life, because my life is just not that exciting. Okay, so this is fiction that I'm writing here. But I think that as I grow as a Christian, and I grow as a woman, I grow as a mother, I grow as a friend, that elements of my growth come out in my story. So I'm not always ready to write every story from a spiritual standpoint. Right. So God has to work that out in me. And so that, because I can think of one book in particular that a lot of people are asking me about, but I've learned so much over the last year that would add more to that story that I'm glad I didn't tell it back when I didn't know X, Y, and Z.
Right. Okay. And Miss Vanessa Davis Griggs, how many books do you have?
I have 18 novels, and I also did 10 devotionals that were in a King James Version Bible. And then I have a devotional that's called May I Have a Word With You that just came out this year. That was a compilation of a column that I used to write that was in the Birmingham Times. So for me, though, I really, really do enjoy creating fiction, although I love reading nonfiction. So that's my favorite thing to really read. But I tell people I take what sometimes is hard and I figure out a way to make it easy. So I'll slip things in and teach you certain things. And so my thing is, like I said, it's about encouraging, but it's also about giving you more information. It's about inspiring you. And I would just like to say that even though people may think my books are about people who are really good all the time, my books really do deal with people having problems. They deal with, I have one book that I had a character who had not been saved. She got saved. And of course, sometimes people want to say, oh, as soon as you get saved, everything should go fine and wonderful for you. And anybody who's a Christian knows that's when the devil really gets at you. And so I had a character who really did have to deal with what happens when you walk away from money that was really coming in a great way, and all of a sudden you're trying to do the right thing, and you lose your job, and you lose family, and you lose this. Do you revert back to what you used to have or used to know, or do you stay the course and say, for God I live and for God I die?
I die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So do any of you have any new and upcoming books for 2019?
I'm trying to work on one for 2019, but I have one that just came out in 2019. Okay. which is Family Business 6. That's the one that I'm promoting right now because, of course, I haven't finished the new. I haven't even started the new one yet. help me, somebody.
Help me, Lord.
Yes, please. But yes, I'm trying to start a whole new series because Family Business 6 is the last book in that series. So now I'm trying to get my mind together as far as what am I going to be doing next.
Anyone else?
I have a book that will be coming out before Christmas. Let me see, I can show a picture of the cover. I don't know if you can see that. It's The Winter Wedding, and it is the sequel to a novella that I wrote that I released in 2016, The Winter Reunion. And so I'm excited about that. I've been trying, it was supposed to be a novella. It's turned into a novel, so my timeline has been pushed back. It's not really a Christmas story, though. It's a winter story, a story that happens to be set in the winter. I have quite a few things coming for 2019, but I've decided I'm going to be in the habit of not saying what I'm going to release because then I feel confined. Like I feel like I have to write the story that people are expecting me to write, and sometimes I want to write something different. So there will be several Rhonda McKnight books in 2019. I had stopped writing for a little while due to some family situations and things, but God has opened a door for me to just be able to really kind of focus a lot more on my writing ministry. So I'm excited about, at least I anticipate I'll have at least 4 or 5 projects in 2019.
Okay. And I just finished reading Winter Reunion.
Yes, you did.
Okay, last question. Do you have any literary events that you'll be attending or hosting in 2019?
I think we all do. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're gonna let you have that, Vanessa Miller.
Yes. We are, all 4 of us who are online today have been to the Christian Book Lovers Retreat. Now, 3 of us are on the board. So Christian Book Lovers Retreat is an event that I host every year in October. This year will be October 24th through the 27th, and it is in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Renaissance Suites. And it is an amazing event where God gets the glory. Our readers have a lot of fun, and our authors enjoy the events because they get to hang out and have fun with our readers. And it's just a really good time, and I love it, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Now, I don't have a national event, but in January will be my 3rd year hosting my author reader mixer. And this is just a local, something for my St. Louis readers, but I've had people from North Carolina and Omaha come in the middle of the winter for a St. Louis event. The theme this year is the ugly gray wig. So all my people that come, they have to come with their ugly gray wig. We're going to have a good time. Last year, these ladies stepped in their Stacey Adams shoes. And so it's just, I have about 40 people. We come and eat real good. We play games. We have door prizes. And it's just my way. It's just my way to say thank you for my readers here in St. Louis. So I do that every January. Next month will be my 3rd year. Yay!
Where do you guys do the event at, Pat?
We do it at my clubhouse. I know you've been to my house.
Yes.
And so my subdivision has a clubhouse, with the fireplace.
Yeah.
And so I would love to have it in a bigger venue, but I'd rather take the money and use it for giveaways for my readers versus, paying $200 for a room for a couple hours or paying $15 a plate. And so the price is $25. I've kept it like that. I'm not trying to nickel or dime my readers, but it's just on a cold, wintry St. Louis day, it's, winter warm up, just come and have a good time.
Yes.
Rhonda, Vanessa, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I have in the Alabama area, Birmingham, Alabama area, I am going to be doing something here on February the 2nd. And then in March, I have 2 events. One is in Collegeville, Tennessee. I'm doing a workshop for a book club or book group that asked me to come and do a thing on writing. Then that next weekend, which is like March the 16th, 17th, I'm doing something with LaShira Lee, where they're having that Friday, they're having the guy who wrote The Shack, William P. Young. He's going to be doing something. And then that Saturday, there are a few of us on a panel. So I'll be talking about when your faith fails, or talking about something with dealing with faith. So I'm doing those things in the next 2 to 3 months. So.
Okay, and for me, CBLR, Christian Book Lovers Retreat, is always my biggest event for the year. Like Vanessa said, it's an awesome event, but I will also be taking my show on the road to the, headed out west this year for the first time. I've pretty much always done events in the Southeast, and I've been to the Midwest, but this year I'll be going to Arizona. On April 27th, I'll be taking one of the featured authors during Ruth Bridges Literary Cafe. And Ruth has a really excellent reputation for putting together literary events. I think she's done a cruise a few times. And so I was really honored to be invited to Phoenix, because I've never been to that area. And so we'll be actually having fun going to the Grand Canyon the day before, and then the Literary Cafe will be on the 27th. So I'm there with 3 other authors. Jacqueline Thomas actually is one of them, and she's a longtime friend and mentor for me, and also a member of the board for Christian Book Lovers Retreat. So Arizona is exciting to me. Christian Book Lovers Retreat is exciting for me, and I probably have one more event that I'll be attending in what is it? I think it could be, well, you mentioned LaShira. It is an event by LaShira Lee. It's in August, Lights, Camera, Action.
Yes.
I'll be attending Lights, Camera, Action this year in August. So that's kind of it for me. 3 events that take me out of town are already a lot for me with my family demands. So, but I'm trying to get out there and see readers.
Okay. Well, in conclusion, where can your readers find you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's rhondamcknight.net, and that's Rhonda with an H. If you can't remember how to spell my name, if you Google Rhonda McKnight, fortunately, the interwebs have made me the most popular Rhonda McKnight in the world, and you will surely find me. If you go to my website, there's a link for all of my books. For my social media sites, I'm pretty active on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And that's kind of it. You know, if you send me an email, I have a newsletter that I get out every so often. I promise not to spam you. If you sign up for it, you will not feel spammed. You will wonder where I am, probably. But those are the ways to reach me.
Okay, thank you.
And I am still rebuilding my website. So once it is rebuilt, it is vanessamiller.com. But you can also find me on Facebook, Twitter. I also have Instagram, but the Instagram, I believe, is under Christian Book Lovers Retreat. So reach out to me, and I have a Christian Book Lovers Retreat website. So it is just that, christianbookloversretreat.com.
Thank you.
And mine is patsimmons.net. If you put in patsimmons.com, I think you'll get the Pat Simmons from the Doobie Brothers or something like that. So yeah, patsimmons.net for me.
Thank you.
And you can find me at vanessadavisgriggs.com. That's VANESSADAVISGRIGGS.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really care for Twitter that much. And I probably like it a lot less in the last 2 years. But anyway, you can find me at Vanessa Davis Griggs on Facebook. So that's, of course, on my website, I have links where you can click and go to anywhere.
All right. And this concludes the discussion. I would like to thank all of you wonderful, wonderful Christian fiction authors I love you and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for
Queenie.
having us.
So
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank
God
you.
bless you.
Have a good one. Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. This is Queenie Clem, your literary ambassador. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies. Love you guys.